Bella, get over here right now.
What is it, ma'am?
I just used the upstairs bathroom and it's dirty, so get up there and clean it.
That's gross. Why don't you clean it yourself?
Because I'm too old. And Joe shouldn't have to clean it. After all, he is the breadwinner.
Well, hello there. My name is Bella, and I am 26 years old. A while ago, I got married to a man named Joe, but things didn't turn out to be the dream I had always wanted it to be. More specifically, my mother-in-law was an absolute nightmare, and so was Joe. But let me start from the beginning. We met while we were both vacationing in Paris. We actually met right under the Eiffel Tower, if you can believe it. I was sad at first, because I thought that he was from France, but it turned out he lived only a few towns over from me. When we found this out, we quickly began dating. On our first date, I opened up to him about how I was unable to find a job after college, and that I had been working at a pet store in the meantime. This was something I was very insecure about because I always wanted to make a lot of money. He assured me that it was nothing to be ashamed about, and told me that he was actually a doctor. I couldn't believe I was dating a doctor. He was so dreamy, and we had so much in common, especially our love for animals. He said he almost became a veterinarian, but his father was very strict growing up, and demanded that he become a medical doctor, not just a doctor for animals. Me and Joe continued to date for months, and I began to realize that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him. I know it might not be customary, but I was actually the one to propose to Joe. I just loved him so much, and I wanted to start our family. Luckily, he said yes, and we began to plan our wedding. The first time I met my awful mother-in-law was at our wedding, and she made a comment to me that I'll never forget.
You're the bride? Are you serious?
Yep, I'm Bella. Is something wrong?
This is disappointing. I thought you would at least be beautiful.
Mother, be nice. This is my wife now.
Joe later explained to me why his mother had acted so inappropriate. He told me how, as she was getting older, she was losing her memory and becoming a mean old woman. He told me that I wouldn't have to deal with her very often, because she lives so far away. We enjoyed the rest of our wedding, and my family loved Joe. A couple of months later, Joe got some bad news. He learned that his mother's house had burned down, and that she needed a place to stay.
Baby, I'm going to offer to have my mother move in with us.
Well, I hope she will be nice to me. Is there anywhere else she can go?
She's my mother, Bella. It is my duty as her son to take care of her.
I guess you're right. Even though I hated the idea of his mother living with us, I bit my tongue. When Joe's mom was finally moved in, she immediately started causing problems. For one, she used all the hot water while she was showering and completely disregarded the fact that I needed some. Then she began eating all of the food in our house and would demand that I go and get more for her. This I could deal with, but then things began getting even worse.
Bella, get over here right now.
What is it, ma'am?
I just used the upstairs bathroom and it's dirty, so get up there and clean it.
That's gross. Why don't you clean it yourself?
Because I'm too old. And Joe shouldn't have to clean it. After all, he is the breadwinner. What do you do if you don't cook and clean? You make no money. You're just a lousy pet store worker.
Joe's mom's words cut deep, but still she had a point, and I went upstairs to clean the toilet. The next day, things got even worse when I went into work. My boss approached me and told me he needed to talk to me.
Bella, I have some bad news. We have some budget cuts, and you're fired. I'm really sorry about this, but there's nothing I can do.
I ran home crying after I heard this, because now I really had nothing. Joe was the one making all the money, and now I would just have to stay home and take care of his horrid mother. When I got home, I was reminded of what I would have to be dealing with.
Why are you home so early?
I got fired.
Wow, so you really are a loser, aren't you? I knew you weren't going to be good enough for my son. Now be a good wife and start cleaning.
It felt like my life was falling apart. I spent the whole day cleaning and waiting on my mother-in-law, listening to her barking orders and sharp insults. That night, I researched ways I could possibly make money online, and I finally came across freelance writing. I was always good at writing in school, and I decided I would give it a try. I made an account and quickly got my first orders, and after that, orders were coming in at an amazing rate. Safe to say, my mother-in-law was not a fan of this new job.
What are you doing? Why aren't you making me a sandwich, you ugly loser?
Don't talk to me like that. I'm working and I'm actually making great money, so leave me alone.
If you don't get in the kitchen and start cooking or cleaning, I will be telling Joe you haven't been a good wife.
Go ahead. I don't care what you say anymore. I was sure Joe would understand that what his mother told him wouldn't be true, but I would be mistaken. When Joe got home, he had an angry look on his face, and he told me his mother had called him and told him that instead of cleaning and taking care of her, I was working.
Why aren't you taking care of my mother? Isn't that what you're for?
Excuse me? I'm your wife. You're supposed to love me. Besides, I'm making a lot of money freelance writing, almost as much as you now.
Yay, right. And sure, I love you, but only if you do exactly what I say and take care of my mother.
Well, if that's the way it's going to be, then I don't want to be married to you anymore.
Good. Let's get a divorce then. You're no good anyway. Plus, I've been cheating on you since the day after we got married.
I couldn't believe Joe had deceived me this whole time, and he had turned out to be a completely different person. Although I was sad my marriage was falling apart, my career was going great. The next day, I was contacted by a Hollywood agent who hired me to write a movie starring some of the biggest names in the film industry. I wrote the best movie Hollywood has ever seen, and just like that, I was making millions of dollars, far more than Joe ever had. Nope.
Where are you getting all this money? Did you steal it?
Nope, I earned it. Now where are those divorce papers? It's time I get rid of you and Joe for good.
They're right here. But wait. Now that you're rich and famous, I changed my mind. I want to stay together, I'll stop cheating on you, and I'll kick my mother out.
Absolutely not. I'm on to bigger and better things now. I guess you just couldn't handle me being the breadwinner, you just had to go and ruin everything. I signed the divorce papers and kicked both Joe and his mother out, because since the house was bought in my name, I technically owned it, which Joe was furious about. Things finally felt at peace with those two finally out of my life. I was getting offers left and right to write more award-winning movies, and I was making more money than I knew what to do with. Just then, there was banging on my door. I went over to the door and almost fainted at what I saw. It was Joe and his mother standing outside of my door with a gun. They were demanding that I let them back in and that I supply them with $1 million. I learned later on that Joe and his mother had moved out and got a place together, but quickly started spending irresponsibly. Joe had picked up a habit of gambling, and his mother bought tons of expensive jewelry, which left them broke. Joe still had access to my bank account for some reason, and showed his mother all of the money I had been making, which gave her this evil idea to rob me. I had to think quickly, so I came up with a lie. I told them that the door was stuck, and that I'd let them in once I go get a tool to fix it. I quickly called the police and begged them to come quickly. It only took a few minutes for the police to arrive, and see Joe and his mother threatening me with a gun. They quickly handcuffed them, and only then did I feel safe enough to open the door. How dare you guys try to pull a stunt like this?
You don't deserve that kind of money. We do.
She's right. A woman's place is in the kitchen.
Look how low you've fallen, Joe. It's embarrassing. Have fun in prison. I saw later in the news that Joe was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and his mother was sentenced to 8 years as well. Joe begged me to bail him out of jail with all of my newfound wealth, but I refused. I even heard from one of my friends that works in the prison that Joe's cellmate is extremely aggressive and beats him up every night. As for his mother, well, she had to take up a job of cooking and cleaning in prison, just to get a little money so she could spend it on cigarettes. I even heard that Joe had his doctorates revoked, so that even when he is released, he will never be able to be a doctor again. Personally, I think he and his mother both deserve it. What do you think?